You're now listening to the Zod and Drea podcast.
Welcome back, everybody.
What's up, people? We are back. Zod and Drea on the microphone again.
And it's number 63.
Number 63, podcast number 63. Thank you for listening.
I realize I announce like every time we have our podcast which number it is. To me, it's like kind of cool. Like, look.
Yeah, you do.
I do. I announce it. Everybody else may not give a crap, but I'm like, yay, it's 63.
And we're still doing it. 63 episodes in and we're still doing it. So we continue on. Obviously, this last week has been another doozy in, government as usual. We got Bannon out. Bannon took off.
Well, I don't even think doozy is given the right word. I mean, it's like, what else can you hit us with?
I mean, it's just it's crazy. And it's not the news media that's doing this. It's the administration that's doing this to themselves. We also have today that came out, the Secret Service pretty much ran out of money out of their budget. Mm-hmm. So this guy on his vacations and all his family, trying to cover up such a big family and going to all this stupid little, like he ruined and messed up the budget for the Secret Service already.
Right.
Like, we're talking, how do you blow a budget of Secret Service in like 7 months?
Because you got to go to
6 months.
all of your golf courses every weekend. You won't stay the hell home.
I mean, it's crazy. Making America great again means that you go and visit your own places, giving your own properties money. Why don't you go to someone else's property, stay there, since you're so hell bent on jobs
right.
and making all these other people.
And all of his supporters should be offended by not only the amount of money that he's spending, but what? You don't think the White House is good enough for you to stay at and for your wife and your son to stay at?
BSing about
what
that.
What is wrong with
talking
you?
about they were getting all these repairs done. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Anyway, forget about him because we got him coming, and it's going to be a little crazy over here in Phoenix tomorrow. Or today, I guess. Today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what we're getting into.
Okay, so on our entertainment side, we're going to talk about a movie that we just finished watching. It was pretty cool. And it's on Netflix, and it's called What Happened to Monday.
Starring Noomi Rapace, and it's a really good show. So another one we're going to hit the relationship is how long should one heal before starting a new relationship? So, we're going to kind of combat that a little bit because some people, I think, either jump into a relationship too soon, or some people even wait years before they even do anything. So,
right.
we're going to give our 2 cents. And the last thing is,
how does gentrification affect populations of color? This is a topic affecting Phoenix, so we're going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about it. So that's going to be the main topic. Oh, whoops, man, that was loud for no reason. Shoot. But anyway, let's talk about the movie review, which is What Happened to Monday. This is what's supposed to be, I think, a Netflix original. At least it's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
So it just came out, I think, a couple of days ago. It's a movie called What Happened to Monday, starring Noomi Rapace, which from your...
My Prometheus, she was my girl. Oh, my God.
She was also in the Sherlock Holmes movie, the Book of Shadows, whatever.
Oh, yeah,
she was actually...
was.
That was her big Hollywood... debut, but before that, she became really well known in the Swedish movie from the Swedish adaptation of the book, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, who
the original
played
actress.
Lisbeth Salander, and I mean, I've watched that movie 50 times, fell in love with her. I love this woman, so I don't care what you say.
Well, you don't have to say anything because I love her too. We're both gonna be fighting for her.
Like she's just
my
little
favorite.
5 foot,
and
5
she's
foot
like
4,
this
just
great method actor. Like she gets fully
like
involved
really
in her
into
characters, gets beat up, gets bloody,
yeah, like
dirty,
she does it all.
sweaty, nasty. Don't care. I love her. Okay, but let's talk about the movie.
So the movie is really interesting. If you are ever fans of where one character plays multiple characters, such as Tom Hardy just did in Legend.
Mm-hmm. The two brothers.
The two brothers. And we've had Lindsay Lohan do it in that what was that other movie? Hey, she did. Parent Trap, but she did,
Which went back to the 50s.
Which back to the 50s, because the kid, and who knows what the CGI, which they didn't have back then, so it was a little bit more, practical effects on how they made the twins look from one actor. And if you're also a fan of the TV show Orphan Black, starring Matt Slaney, I think that's her first name. whatever.
Tatiana.
Anyway, Tatiana Maslany, thanks. Well, starring her, she plays, multiple characters. I think they hit like 20-something. Just Clone Club. So this movie sort of touches kind of like that, where Numi plays 7 characters. And they each are babies in a dystopian, future,
2073.
Well, that's when she was running for. So who knows what year it was? But let's say estimate 2060 something. The world has finally overpopulated itself, and now kind of like what China does, where they just limit people to a certain amount of kids. They now limit you to, the whole world limits you to 1. And so what they do with any extra kids that you have, they grow them to a certain age, or if you're caught, they put them in cryogenic stasis for later usage when they can deal with the Earth overpopulation.
Yeah, they keep what it is their plan is to wake them up from Mimi's, and then from there wake them up into a planet that is beautiful now, and they can handle the rest of the population. It's much better.
Exactly. So we have now 3 girls who were born to Willem Dafoe. Well, Willem Dafoe's daughter, I believe. His character's daughter, who had septuplets. So we're talking about 7 of them raised, and they were raised as babies in this apartment and named after the days of the week. And the days of the week were the days that they were allowed out. So they would play one character out in the world. They were all the same person. And if one thing happened to one child, it had to happen to them all. So one of them had, I forgot which day, was it Tuesday? No, it wasn't Tuesday. I think it was Friday. No, it wasn't Friday. Friday was the one with the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
I think it might have been Thursday. No, it wasn't Thursday. Thursday was the red hair. It was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Isn't this crazy?
I know. I hope we confused you totally.
It was Wednesday who had gotten out, and she broke her finger. It broke off in a skateboarding accident. So since her finger came off and they're playing a character out on the outside world, everybody's finger had to come off.
Right, because it was on her day that she should not have been out.
Yeah, so she went out on what that wasn't her day. So, now we're talking about them as adults. And suddenly, Monday, as an adult playing the character, the one character that they all have in common, disappears. And when she doesn't come back at her certain time, and they're now 30 years old, they're like, okay, well, what happened to Monday? Well, once you find out what happens to Monday, then all of a sudden it affects every single one of them, and then, everything just goes to hell. It's just ridiculous.
But the action is nonstop.
It is. It's really good.
And the way that they shot it, because mind you, the characters are all played by the one actress, and they're in multiple scenes together where they're all sitting and having dinner together. They're even fighting with each other. It's nuts. They just shot this so great.
Yeah, so it was shot really well, but it's one of those things where it's a really good action show, and Numi Rapace does her thing. She does her thing 7 times over, and I definitely recommend it. We haven't written anything for it on our website yet, but you should definitely check it out.
All right, next topic. That went by fast. We can talk about Numi all day long.
I know. She's just such a good actress.
She's so great. Now let's talk about how long should one heal before starting a new relationship.
Now, I can only speak about myself. I'm the type of person where when I'm in a relationship, I get into it. I'm into it. This is my girl. This is who I'm with, and nothing else really matters. Yeah, I'm a guy. I'm gonna look, and who knows? You may even lust. Who knows? But you put your heart into somebody, and that's it. Everything else, that's flavor. That just wafts away. If you break up, to me, you have to have time to heal. You have to have time to get over that person. And the human body, the human form always wants company. That person always wants somebody. They want companionship. It's natural. You see dudes in prison wind up doing it. Women in prison wind up doing it. It's almost like a natural response for somebody to want somebody close to them. Depends on how close, but it's up to them to do that.
Yeah, we need to touch.
Yes.
You need to feel that human body to have that instinct.
Humans are social creatures.
And that's the worst form of punishment, is to keep us isolated away from people.
Yeah, so imagine that. Exactly. And that's what they try to do. So after you break up with somebody, how long do you think you should heal? To me, there's not specifically a time. Somebody had said, I think you have to take the time that how long you were in the relationship, and I think
add 3 months
or something, or cut it in half or something like that. I forgot what it was. I don't think there's a specific number. For me, it's Almost the same amount of time, but then I need time to get over it. So I usually wind up getting over it real bad. I start going nuts. Now, some people can wind up doing that. Some other people just don't give themselves that me time, I don't find.
Well, and it goes into, like, for myself, it goes into if you're comfortable being alone. I know for me, I'm very similar in that sense too. When I am in a relationship, like I've committed to somebody, not dating. Dating's different. Where you're like, I've gone on a few dates with this person. Yeah, I'm not gonna see them anymore. That's a different scenario.
Yeah, that's different.
Talking like this is like, I was even married before, so you can imagine that. What? Oh yeah, did I not tell you that?
Okay, go ahead.
But it goes into, again, like how, like you said, how long was I invested in them, and really how much of my heart did I give to them? So when committed relationships, it's going to take me a while. It took me a long time after my divorce to actually get into another relationship. And when I mean by a long time, I mean like 2 years at least.
Man, you're good. I mean, the last time you're my current girlfriend, so the last one was like 2011. It took me, I probably chilled out for about 4 years, which could be long, but sometimes it's 2 years. It depends on how comfortable I am, what the situation is with whether money, finance, or what you're doing with your life with work, and whether you want to try and pull somebody in. And I'm very comfortable being with myself, so I'm very comfortable just being by go eat by myself, see the movies. That's what I would do. Hang out with my friends, whatever. Somebody come over, cool. That's just, that was me, and I was just perfectly fine with it, until you came around. It was just a different vibe. So I was like, okay, let me get in a relationship, and I'm fine. I was ready.
What did you find out about yourself when a relationship was done and you had that time alone? Was there anything that you found out about yourself that surprised you?
Nothing that surprised me, because I was always a loner. It's almost the reverse. I'm almost surprised that I'm in a relationship. Most people are, oh my God, Brent, you're in a relationship? Not that I'm a playboy. That's not, it's weird. I develop a rep. Sometimes I develop a rep like that, but that's not what it is. It's just, I think it's one of those things where people are so comfortable being by themselves. Like it's just that type of a feel. And me, sometimes it'll just take time to let your heart heal. For me, it could be a year, That's what
I had to do, was accept my heartbreak. And I know for a lot of people, they just want to numb that, and actually that was the best thing to do, was just to let my heart break, because when it's broken, then I can put it back together. If it's slightly cracked, then it's always going to stay cracked. You get what I'm saying? So let your heart break. That's always my suggestion. For some people, it's just maybe not their choice.
Because otherwise, if you don't allow it to break and then heal itself, you'll never learn from whatever relationship you had in the past. Because you're going to overlap. If you just keep going over, well, I'm alone, so I don't feel like being alone, then that's an excuse that you're making, and it's not about the other person breaking your heart. You're actually tearing yourself apart from inside.
So is there a time frame? Don't know. But if it's important is, what do you do in that time?
Yeah.
Please listen carefully.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Zod.
And I'm Drea.
And we want you to check out the Zod and Drea podcast every Tuesday.
Where can everybody find us at?
You can always check us out on www.zodanddrea.com.
Where else?
You can always check us out also on Facebook at Zod and Drea.
Instagram?
Zod and Drea.
Snapchat?
Zod and Drea.
YouTube?
Zod and Drea.
I see a pattern.
So if you haven't caught that, catch us at Zod and Drea on all the social networks. But also, make sure you subscribe to the Zod and Drea podcast. Where?
At zodanddrea.com.
And also on YouTube and iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. We're coming for you.
Let us know what you think. And if you want to be a guest, reach out to us.
And put all of your input into whatever our topics are for the week. So we hope to check you out and see you there.
Bye.
Now we're ready for our next topic.
Okay, now the main topic is, how does gentrification affect populations of color? So we've had a few different places of reference that we can even talk about, probably from experience. I mean, me and you, living in Brooklyn, I didn't come up in Brooklyn like when Brooklyn was Brooklyn. I didn't come up then. It was the year 2000, and I only stayed there for 5 years. So I'm not a Brooklynite. I just knew enough about Brooklyn to get around, but I did know Brooklynites, like people who went to school there. They lived there. That was their lives. And don't get me wrong, I'm Jersey to the bone. I'm New Jersey straight up. But living in New
I
York,
love how your accent kicks in when you say that
shut
too.
up. But living in New York was something that was just an experience because people ride or die New York depending on where they're from. Like, and especially Brooklyn, like cats will just like that was it. So to be in that for 5 years, it was amazing. But also to hear the stories that people were talking about were different from what I had seen. So, for instance, when I moved over there, especially down in like 2001, so in 2001 when I moved down to President and Fifth, that's when I really got the sense of where I was. Even though it was Park Slope, and Park Slope, everyone had everyone got names, you do or die, Bed-Stuy, whatever, and people call it Park Slope the Dark Slope. Everybody always got to give it a hard name. But apparently it was like over there in Union, there was a big drug dealer that was right there in the corner, and there were crack vials all over the place where he would sell and use as reused. But when I moved there, my landlord, who had lived there forever, had said, yeah, that stuff wrapped up like a few years ago when they got rid of the dude, and now things started getting a lot better. And the reason that I even had to move down there from when my sister and I were rooming together up near the park, because we were a couple blocks up at the park, right on Prospect Park West, we had a screaming deal. A deal that was so dope in 2000 for what we had living in a brownstone, built that was built in, I think, the early 1900s.
How much was your rent?
Oh, man, like $2,200 a month.
Shut up.
For 2 people. It was ridiculous.
Oh,
the top two floors of a brownstone on Prospect Park West, right on the park, on a private street. Because remember, Montgomery Place was a private street.
So not a bedroom, but 2 floors.
No, it was 2 floors, two
Wow.
straight up floors. Kitchen, it was beautiful. Big too. All wood. Anyway, gentrification. The reason why we had to move was because they sold the place. So they sold her thing for like 1.3 mil or something. So the prices were going up in this neighborhood regardless. A few years later, when I moved back to Jersey, the prices were still going up in that neighborhood, and I think my the current landlord's, his area was also going up like 1 point something mil. At the same time, Harlem was going up to where just the shell of the brownstone back in the early 2000s was $500,000. Just the shell. We're talking, there's nothing in it. That's it. Like, let's not even furnish it and put stuff in it. Just the shell. So it was starting to come together where gentrification was kicking in. And that's where the prices were going. Once that Starbucks went up, ridiculous. Now, that was in 2001, whatever. So obviously this was a long time ago, and it's 2017. We're going 16 years or so since I had lived there. I've been back there since. Man, to see Brooklyn with all these white faces to the point where now they built the Barclays over there. Remember, that's where they bought the Brooklyn Nets, so now they're over there. They got Starbucks, and they got all these boutiques, and they got this, that. You should see the price of some of those places. We're talking now those brownstones are $10 million for some of them.
See, that's just stupid. Like, that's just stupid.
10 mil. So you know that the culture also leaves in some of these other places, and some of the other places in Brooklyn. And also in Manhattan. In Harlem. You remember we were talking about them trying to change the name, the realtors trying to say Soha, south of Harlem, Soha. Like, we're talking about the Black Renaissance and everything else that went on there in the 1920s, 30s, 40s. And they're trying to change the identity of. So, is gentrification affecting people? Yeah, because it's pushing people out. The people who had built that. Now, is it better? Hey, I don't mind diversity. We don't want segregation everywhere. But we also don't want people to come in and bring their livelihood or what they believe that they feel should be the neighborhood and change. It's almost like, okay, hey, this is cool, this is Harlem, but now we're going to add an HOA to this block. Like, we never had an HOA before. Well, now we want it because it's going to be good. Who's going to come into an HOA? They're going to move the black people out because they're going to probably move off to the Bronx or somewhere.
And that was my question. So where do you place the populations now that are being pushed out? Where do they go? They just can't vanish. What do you do with people?
Let me ask you. Your dad, he used to be over there near the airport.
Right.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, my dad and my parents both have great stories about their experience with gentrification, what they've seen in Phoenix. So my dad was born and raised in Phoenix, like third generation here, right? So this was like before it was even a state, right? With Arizona, a statehood. But anyways, he always talks about his experiences growing up in the different elementary schools here. Sylvester Herrera Elementary School he went to, and my parents went to Phoenix Union High School. And where that is, for those that are from Phoenix, it is where it is 7th Street and Van Buren. I'm sorry, in Roosevelt, not Van Buren. Oh yeah, between Roosevelt and Van Buren. So it is where the Phoenix Children's Museum is, and that time in like the early 60s, mid 70s, man, only if you were Latino or Black were you in that area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 7th Street, 16th Street, pretty much anything south of Thomas. Well, no, sorry, south of McDowell, all the way to South Mountain. That was for the communities of color, right? So you had your different barrios there. You had your communities. Well, then the airport started to grow, right? And Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. They started then to buy out of everybody that lived in the neighborhoods near the airport. It was like the rug was pulled underneath them, where all of a sudden one day they're told, that house that they've been living in for 40 years, no longer theirs. It is now the property of the state. There was no public announcement. There was no city meetings at that time. And this was like 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. The city just flat out bought these neighborhoods out and kicked all of these neighborhoods and these people that have been there for decades out. They moved them to your farther west areas, Levine, where you have now Avondale. But it was a struggle, because then all of a sudden you had these older families that your community was gone, right? Your neighbors were gone. You're just given a little bit of money, not even a decent amount of money to really fully relocate, just a little bit of money, and they said, get out. So it was nuts. And what my dad always talks about is how quickly it's grown in the past 15 years now, and what he's seen, and so will we, about, wow, there was nothing here. You know, like you go in an area in South Phoenix, it was all farmland. All of a sudden, you got homes there that are what we just saw not too long ago off of 24th Street and Baseline. $500,000 homes.
Yeah, ridiculous.
That was like 35 years ago when my dad got back from Vietnam War. He wanted to go straight to that neighborhood so he could smell the roses and all of the land that was all with it was acres of flowers. And now you got a $500,000 home there and a Starbucks. But the communities of color don't have a say. What they have done instead is move them to the industrial areas. So you have a house, that's great, but it's next door to a plant that's manufacturing these toxic chemicals and it's putting into your water. And it's poisoning your soil.
So, I don't know if you heard this story. This was kind of funny. But we're going to talk Harlem again for a second. There was this woman who was she's a transplant into Harlem, but she was trying to silence the ice cream man.
Oh, that.
You remember that? So there was an ice cream man who was on the block who would play his music around like 7:45 to 9 o'clock. Now, if you've ever been in New York, you know the sounds of the city. That's the sounds of the city. I think even Stevie Wonder had a song about like in the city, you know, what goes on in the city, and he talks about the sounds. But that's the noises that you make. That's what makes the city the city. You hear things like the Ice Cream Man. And she was trying to not just like silence him, she was like trying to call the cops on him, trying to report him. Like this. Now, who are you to try to come into New York City and try to make what you're used to? Instead of adapting to what the city life is, you're trying to make New York City into a suburb. Mm-hmm. So in other words, she sat there and complained about the city noise and saying this is how much it is. It's punishable. You can get fines of $3,500 or $350 to $3,000, whatever. And then she was pissy because nobody was doing anything. Yeah, because you're talking about people who've been living there. Like, of course, no one's going to do anything to some newbie who comes to New York City and tries to tell the ice cream man not to play his music at night. Like, what's wrong with you? So, of course, she finally went to talk to him and said, would you mind turning off the music? He said, what are you talking about? She said, it's illegal for you to have your music on anyway, so could you please turn it off? His response, fuck off. That's New York, okay? It's like, shut the hell up. I'll bet you she tried to call 311 and nothing was working. I mean, these are people who try to move in and try to change what it is. Once that first Starbucks comes in, it's terrible.
So well, let's talk about what the positives could be for gentrification, right? So we know it infuses money into a community that is either struggling or just couldn't get back up.
Well, I was gonna real quick. I was gonna
Yeah.
give a stat. Um, it says the cost of renting a home has increased throughout the United States in recent years, most notably in urban areas. So, according to Zillow in 2004 analysis between 2004 and 2014, the median household income had risen 25%, while rents increased nearly 53%. So
That's-
rents are going up faster than the median household income, which means even middle class people aren't really able to afford some of these things that are going on. I mean, if you really think about that, how ridiculous that is. And if you've ever been around the Phoenix area, how many new lush and posh apartments are popping up?
And that's who gets impacted when it comes to a gentrifying neighborhood, right? Are the renters. Not really the homeowners as much, but it's the renters, because what are you going to do? The rent's going to go up because whoever owns that property is going to adjust it to what's attractive then, and you're out. You can't afford it, and you're gone.
Real quick, try to talk about it from about 30 seconds. Try to talk about the restaurant. Talk about renters.
Oh my gosh. There was this awesome restaurant that was down the street from us called Tico's, and it was like one of the first major restaurants that was gay owned and really brought some awesome food to this neighborhood, right? So it had been around for about 10 years, 8 years, I think. And then all of a sudden it had to leave because the rent in this shopping business area, which before no one could look at before or care about, maybe 3 years ago, went to how much again?
It tripled. Their rent tripled.
To $11,000 a month.
Okay, I didn't want to put it out there like that.
Well, I did. Because that's like nuts to me. It's nuts to me.
But I mean, it tripled. It tripled up the amount to how much it is to what it was in that little short span of time because of gentrification. You know, you have these new people with money coming in, so it's like, okay, this is great. And who knows? You know, maybe crime winds up going down. Maybe schools wind up getting better. I mean, there's one thing that you noticed over in where Mikey lived, over in Sunny Slope. Do you remember in that neighborhood when they started putting up the cool houses? Then what did they do to the roads?
They put speed bumps. And if you notice, if a neighborhood gets speed bumps, it's because then the income ratio in that neighborhood's starting to go up.
So think about that. If you don't have speed bumps, more than likely they don't really care about the safety of your child.
And we've gone through neighborhoods where there's been schools and there's no speed bumps.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
But wait till you start funneling some money into it. Then, you know, once that, little coffee shop pops up, or who knows what, then all of a sudden they're going to start caring about your area. Now, there's no reason, and I don't see why. I'm trying to look for the study, but I can't find anything about why they don't just pump in money into the current area where the people who already currently live there, instead of trying to raise the rent, because it's an easy way for people to push others out.
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
I mean, if you do not want somebody there, then you can raise their rent. They raise your rent, then, or the property taxes go up, they're going to raise your rent. When they start pushing all of that up, there are only going to be a certain type of people who will be able to afford that. And most of them don't look like us.
Yeah.
Until we start hitting those digits where, and I'm talking about people who live in New York are, got like 200. I knew people who lived in New York City probably made like 300 G's. Still were like, yo, this is crazy.
Right, you barely afford your place.
So you have to almost make like $1 million in order to live in certain places. And, I'm not just picking on New York. I just love New York, but San Fran.
Yeah, I'm like, I could talk about in NorCal all day long. What would be creative for any city now that's going through this? Why don't you make then housing available for everybody? What is wrong with that?
And what is wrong with that?
Why can't you just go to a neighborhood, fix it up so that it's still something that's going to be of value to that existing population that's there?
Because even down here over on Roosevelt Row, where they have probably pushed out a whole bunch of people.
Whole bunch.
You don't have the art that you used to have there. And that we're talking about within the last 2-3 years. And the art has changed. Now it's very sterile and... Yeah, thanks for the light rail. Thanks for the apartments.
Expressionism is gone.
But, I don't need an espresso.
Every corner I go to.
Anyway, that's our topic on the gentrification. Please let us know what you think. Write us on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you see Zod and Drea. Just give us a comment, write us back, and let us know what you think.
And also keep an eye out for some extra Johnny on the spot videos, if you will, this week.
All right, they're not. They're called. Man on the street videos. No, they're not toilets. Jesus Christ.
But at least you'll remember. So keep an eye out. We're going to have some more stuff posted this week from the adventures of Phoenix and the Trump visit.
Yeah, Trump's coming to visit Phoenix, so we're going to try to get a little bit of video, and hopefully you'll be able to see something and some of the results from our live or at least we might do it live, whatever, but one of our podcasts that we're going to have.
So you never know. But again, let us know what you think. Subscribe
to us on YouTube, everything else .com, at Zod and Drea everywhere. All right?
Bye.
Bye.